Recording. First, I'd like to introduce you to our in-home parent training team. We have Kimberly Goshi. I am Megan Walls. Shannon Tibbetts and Marty Mata are not able to be here today, but they are our two other fabulous in-home parent trainers. We have a couple resources that we'd also like to share with you, and we will show you these at the end as well. But we do have our in-home parent training website and a Facebook page. It is a very valuable resource if you're not already on it or liked it. It's a great resource where we post a lot of things and events going on in the community. And a lot of our trainings will be posted there as well, too. So we will just jump right on to it into teaching social skills. Before we begin, I do have to say social skills is one of my favorite things to teach personally, because that's what I used to teach when I was a teacher. I was a special education teacher in our SAIL program for 7 years, and social skills is very near and dear to my heart. So it's something I'm very passionate about, and I love sharing this with you guys today. So when we're teaching social skills, the most important thing is that we want to begin with a plan. And hopefully you'll have a good plan after our training today. But we want to stop, look, and listen, see what our children are telling us, really take some time to observe what areas where we want them to grow socially, and what some areas of growth might be, what their strengths are, what their deficits are, and really just observe that and evaluate that as a parent first. We want to set a goal. So a lot of the most common thing we hear a lot as in-home parent trainers is we want our children to have friends. And so that's a very big goal, but sometimes we even need to break that down to smaller steps, that we need to get our child to learn how to introduce themselves to others, to engage in conversations, to initiate conversations. So figure out a realistic goal for your child and for your family. And then we're going to go into modeling that. And a lot of times in the classroom, that is taught kind of in a one-on-one setting where we model those skills as the teacher, and you can practice with the teacher. So you guys are the teachers at home. As a parent, you can model those skills and practice that with your child. And then in the home setting where they are more comfortable, that's where you're going to want to prompt them and give them some more cues and really work on those skills at home. We can reinforce. Reinforcements are a really big favorite of our children and of ours, because we could use them a lot to help curb behavior and curb those social skills that we want. And then most importantly, we'll generalize. So again, going back to the school setting, what generalization typically looks like is if, in a one-on-one setting, a teacher might be teaching a child a certain social skill. The way we can learn or see that they've mastered that skill is that they can generalize it across different settings. So that may be during recess, during lunchtime in the cafeteria, that they can initiate conversations with their peers. For you at home, that could be going out to the playground, to a family member's house. Even I know in this digital era right now, being on a Zoom call, those are ways that you can generalize those skills that you're teaching your child. We'll break down that stop, look, and listen a little bit more. And one of the big components of our stop, look, and listen skill is to really pay attention to how you feel in social situations. Sometimes it's hard to prioritize those social skills and those needs, but if we tune into our feelings. So for example, I have a 5-year-old, and there could be something that he does at the playground that makes me just feel so embarrassed as a parent that I may overreact to. And that's where I really have to pay attention to. I'm feeling embarrassed. Now really assess, is this something that is a deficit, or is it just something that I need to get over and not be so embarrassed that my child does this? So really focus on your feelings as a parent. Focus on the social situations without distractions. Make sure that you're really paying attention to that area. And then I always say this is look and see how others respond to your child, and how your child responds to others in different social situations. This is kind of one of our favorite sayings, to be a goal digger. So figure out what your goals as a family. Again, we hear one of the most common things is that we want our children to have friends. So if having more friends and those friendships is a goal of your family, then you can figure out ways to incorporate those goals and really work on those with the family. That may be exposure. and setting up more social situations for your child to be more successful. Um, and then with that, we say pick one goal at a time. So going back to having more friends. That first goal may really just be introducing themselves and initiating conversations. So let that be the goal that you work on the most, is getting your child to independently introduce themselves or initiate a conversation. And then from there, we can focus on maintaining that conversation. And then from there, you could go to a follow-up that maybe they'll play again at another time. So you can really build on those goals to make them like overall bigger goals that you're working towards, like that having a friend, but really let's focus on the smaller steps first to make sure that we get there. A big thing is to make sure that everyone is involved and that we make it fun for our child. We don't want social skills can already be kind of an awkward and sensitive subject for some of our children that already have deficits in that area, that it's not something that we want to drill into this is what you have to do. But make it more fun and really stress that importance of why we need this skill. A lot of our kids just need to know the why behind something, and they're more willing to accept it. So we have teach the skill. As a teacher, of course, this is what I think is one of the most important steps. We're going to find creative ways to teach and model the skills you've set as a goal. We're going to use visuals, videos, friends, family members, and even community members in this step. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into ways we can teach the skill at home. My two personal favorites are teaching through books and games. And I'll explain why and give you guys some examples in just a second too. Games, these are some of my favorite ones. They're geared towards a little bit of our younger kids, but you can enjoy them at any age. I actually have one of them here with you. My son is 5 and has been playing this one for about a year. This is the sneaky snacky squirrel game. And it's very, very simple. You just spin a little wheel. They get little acorns where they can take them in and off their board. But the wheel is very simple. Like you lose 2 acorns, you miss a turn, you gain an acorn. There's very simple rules to understand. In fact, I believe this one is ages 3 and up. So it's adaptable for all. Games, this is also kind of a 2-for-1 because it does work on those fine motor skills also, like putting the acorn on the thing and balancing it on the board. So I know our occupational therapists probably love this one as well. But games are really great no matter what the age, because when we're younger, we can be focusing on just very basic following directions. And here are the steps. As we get older, we can focus more on turn taking. I know even conversationally waiting our turn is a really hard skill for some of our kids. They want to talk and they want to talk now and they want your full attention. So even using games to learn how to wait your turn and can be very valuable. Another one of my personal favorite skills that games teach is losing or things not going your way and how we can adapt. Games can be a great tool. Some of my favorites for that are Trouble is a very basic one where you hit the little bubble and it gives you a number and you go, but you can kick people off the board. Trouble is really fun because you can go the whole game essentially losing or not being very successful, but still end up the winner at the end of the game if the luck goes your way. So it's really a fun game. I would recommend that for some of our older kids too, that can have grasped that turn taking skill first, but it's really good at teaching our kids to lose. When they can master how to lose in a small game, it sets them up for bigger things like disappointment or not doing well in another area of life too, or even losing a game at school in PE, that we don't just completely fall apart, that we've mastered those smaller skills in the board game, and hopefully that can generalize to bigger things too. Another way we can teach social skills very simply is through our books. Hopefully we're reading with our kids every day too. And how, at least with my 5-year-old, I can kind of pick some areas that I think we can benefit from hearing some more about at the time. And we kind of gauge our, change up our bedtime books based on that need. I'll start with Dude, That's Rude. These are some of my favorite books for our older kids, for our probably upper elementary, middle school kids. They kind of address, there's ones that address every type of behavior. So there's this one's all about manners, which is my personal favorite, because it digs into like the gross stuff too, where it makes it kind of fun for kids. Like they're kind of excited to talk about it, but in a fun way with a book. There's also there's one called How to Take the Grr Out of Anger, and kind of dealing with some of those emotional regulation skills as well. So that's a really great tool for our upper elementary, middle school kids, even high school kids. And then, of course, my all-time favorite is our Pete the Cat series. Pete the Cat's fun. There's normally sorts of sing-alongs. I believe our wonderful music therapist has even made some videos that have to do with Pete the Cat on her website, which we can share with you guys as well. But like this one in particular, I love My White Shoes. It has a little catchy song, but it ends the story with, even though things didn't go his way, it's all groovy. It's all good. So it's books can be a really fun way to teach social skills. Another good one that I did not include on here was movies. I know a lot of our kids love movies. I try to be very intentional with what movies we choose and we watch and kind of why we watch them. One of my personal favorites that I know is used in the classroom a lot too is Inside Out. Inside Out can work on our feelings, our emotions, but it's a great movie to help guide some conversation. So we can be a little bit more intentional with our movie choices and find ones that can really open up that conversation with our child, where we can talk about what's going on in the movie and how it relates to us. And like I said, Inside Out is a really simple one because it's easy for kids to understand. It goes over 5 emotions and feelings, and they can really just relate to it. Okay, and along with teaching this skill, we love the use of visuals and social scripts. So here are just quick examples of both. Like visual, this one has to do with having a safe body. So maybe if your child has a hard time keeping their hands or their feet to themselves, or hits as a form of communication. This one is having a safe body, what safe hands look like, what safe feet looks like, what a quiet mouth, and what does it generally look like to have a safe body. So it kind of pairs up some visual representations with that. And then here's a social script. We went back to kind of playing on the playground, like I discussed earlier. This would be something if we are generalizing that skill in working on playing with another kid on the playground. What I would recommend is something like a social script. And before you even leave the house, go over the social script with your child. Like, hey, we're going to the playground and let's review our playground expectations. Something fun you can also do is just laminate it and take it in the car. I know my children like reading things in the car, and let them just hold on to it in the car on the way to the park. And it kind of just continues to reinforce, I'm going to the park and this is what I'm going to do. This one kind of breaks down those steps. Sometimes I like to play with other kids. I can ask them, do you want to play with me? And it kind of walks through if they say yes, and if they say no. If your child is struggling in a certain area, say they don't do well when the child that they're playing with wants to play something different, you can switch up this social script and adjust it to like when my friend wants to play something different than I do, then it's okay. Or if I don't like what one of my friends is doing, I can go find another friend to play with. So whatever your child's needs are, you can kind of switch up this social script to match that, and then properly kind of prep them for those social expectations that we're going to have for them. In teaching this skill still, we have power cards. Power cards are super fun because we can make them geared more towards our child. So this may be for a child that loves Star Wars. And there's lunchroom expectations. There's has to do with Yoda, which I know right now is a baby Yoda is a very fun character for a lot of our kiddos. But these ones are really nice and are used a lot of times in the classroom because they can be small. Like when I say power card, they can even be printed on an index card. Obviously, depending on your child's level, we don't have to have this much text, but we can have short and concise, or we can have a whole paragraph if your child enjoys reading. A lot of times in the school setting, what we do with power cards is we print them off, we laminate them, we punch a hole in them and put them on a binder ring. And so you can have power cards for certain social situations that your child may go through. So there's even, I've done ones for going to the bathroom in a public setting, eating in a restaurant. And so it's really nice. I know even as a mom, you can put your little power cards in your purse. And if you're at the restaurant, and they're having a hard time with those social expectations at a restaurant, you can pull out your power card, turn to the one that addresses restaurant behavior, and review it with your child there on the spot. And then with power cards, if you decide this is something that you think would be beneficial for your child, please let us know, any of our 4 in-home parent trainers, because we'd be more than happy to help walk you through how to make these, help you laminate them, or those things too, if you need some help with that at home. And then last, our social autopsy worksheet. So this is kind of for a higher level, but it can be broken down for a younger child as well. A social autopsy, or a lot of times what we call them as teachers, are like reflection sheets or think sheets. So these are kind of what we go through after a behavior occurs, or after a social situation that we didn't anticipate occurs, that we can walk through with our child. So I'll kind of walk through this one. This is one that might be used at the school, where it says, what happened? And like I said, for an older child, they can fill this out themselves. For a younger child, you can let them tell you, and you can write it down as they're telling you, or you can just simply listen. And here are some guiding questions that you can use when you're walking through this reflection with them. So this particular student they yelled at a teacher. That's what happened. And so then you can go back and reflect on, what was the social error, who was hurt, how did other people feel because of that? That's a really big one, where we can kind of go back, like, I yelled, in some of our older kids, it could be, I yelled a cuss word. And this is how other people felt when I yelled that cuss word. And really break that down for your child so they can understand more. And then you have what should be done to correct the error. A lot of times it's an apology, or what they can do to learn so they don't do it next time. And yeah, and that goes into the next step, is what should be done next time. So if we circle that back to that they yelled at the teacher, that they were frustrated, something that they could do next time is use a strategy such as taking 3 deep breaths, and kind of practice that with your child. So this just sets them up for, because it's inevitable, things aren't going to go our way all the time, and they aren't going to be perfect during this time. So this kind of sets them up so we can reflect when that does happen. How can we better ourselves for next time? Okay, and I kind of spoke about modeling a little bit. You as a parent at home are your child's first social skills teacher. Even for, and really, I have a 16-month-old as well. And I am very aware that she is watching everything I do, my social interactions with others. So even from when they're itty bitty, you're their first teacher, and they are watching every move, every word that you say, every interaction with other adults and other children that you have. So it's always just good to keep in mind that they are watching us, and we will be the ones that teach and model that first for them at home. We kind of went back to role playing and imitation. I cannot emphasize enough how valuable role playing can be. Again, in the classroom, role playing could look like if we were working on entering the classroom appropriately. We would practice entering an empty classroom every day, just one time, 5 seconds a day, just walking into the classroom, praise that they did it correctly. And then when they walk into their general education classroom, we're setting them up for more success that way. We can also use video modeling. A lot of times our children don't understand what their behaviors look like, or the impact it can have on others too. So if we feel comfortable videoing some of those behaviors and walking them through what that looked like, that's great too. Or we can be more proactive. I know with technology these days, and a lot of our children are really great with it. The iPads have iMovie and things like that. Your child can make a movie trailer or a video trailer with the behaviors or what social scenarios look like, and make that really fun for them, and let them make a movie out of it, and have some fun with it. But that's just another way that we can use video modeling. Prompts and cues. We always say, even as adults, we need prompts and cues, and more importantly, so do our children. So just a bunch of verbal reminders can really go a long way with our child, and then visual reminders too. And another just like simple one is, if we're working with our child, this is kind of more of a behavior thing, but not going out the front door without asking for permission or without a parent, just by posting up a stop sign on the door can be very helpful. That serves as a visual reminder that they need to stop. They need to wait for a parent. They need to ask for a parent. And then visual reminders can be those power cards that we use. I've even seen some families tape up their social scripts and social stories around their house in different scenarios that they might need them, just to serve as another reminder for them. Reinforce. It's important to remember that we are rewarding the proper behavior and really focusing on that positive behavior and not all the things that they're doing wrong. I know it's really easy as parents to focus on the negative and focus on the wrong, but try to focus on the positive as much as possible. I found this little cartoon that's um, kind of really clearly demonstrates the difference between negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement. Negative wording focuses attention on the unwanted behavior. So this is an example in a library that a child yells out to the librarian or the teacher that, hey, I found the books. And the librarian just says, no yelling in the library. So the positive way to reinforce that would be, I found your books. And instead of the teacher yelling at them, says, nice using your quiet voice in the library. So just acknowledging that they found them, but let's remember to use our quiet voice. So we're just focusing on the positive and not just emphasizing the negative there. All right, and then generalizing the skill. As I said earlier, make sure you get neighbors, family members involved, teachers involved, community members. So right now, that could be when we're working on things that it may just be going to visit a family member's house, somebody that you're comfortable with, that can be a little patient with you and your child as you're working through some of these skills. Zoom calls have kind of helped a lot this year, and I know have been a little different for a lot of us. Visiting neighbors, baking treats for your neighbors and having your child walk to and visit each neighbor's house and introducing themselves and giving them some cookies is a good way to just work on some of those skills as well, just in a really comfortable setting for your child. So practice in the community, playgrounds, parks, stores, restaurants, as much as you can to help generalize those skills will be better. And we have create social experiences. So this could be conversation starters, photographs with our pets. We can create a lot of fun social experiences with our pets. And I know a lot of times our kids are more likely to gravitate towards our pets too. So if you have pets, involve them as much as you can. That could be taking your dog on a walk, taking them to the dog park. Being able to ask about other children's pets is a really good way to incorporate our pets in our social time. Kitchen time is a really fun one. Involve your child with your cooking, your baking. It's a great opportunity to connect with your child, to talk to them. And celebrations, big or small, make sure you're celebrating these things with your family. So birthday dinners. I know we have a lot of holidays here and little things that we can celebrate, but get your child involved in those celebrations, in the planning process, and all those things will make them more likely to socialize and to participate in the events as well. Meal times, as much as possible, try to eat together as a family. I know so many of us have busy schedules, especially on weeknights, but if we can set aside some of that meal time and family time as much as possible, that will really go a long way with your child. Meal times can be, and it's kind of funny, but a great way to incorporate some of those games too. So a lot of times we hear about, like during family dinners, that we would love to do family dinners, but my child won't sit at the dinner table, has a hard time sitting still and maintaining their attention for that long time. Meal times can be a great time for you to incorporate games as well. I know with my little starting when they were really young, during our mealtime, we could do things like I Spy while we're eating, and that kind of helped grab their attention. So that's also a great time to incorporate just kind of some small games and then have some fun conversations with your child too. And then I will go over some ideas. These are a lot of ones that were pulled from the classroom that I often shared with parents to do at home, but we went back to making it fun for your child. So that's really what we want to focus on with our social skills. I didn't bring it here with me today, but I know they're everywhere at the Dollar Tree right now, in Walmart, Target, preparing for summer. But we would often make something called a conversation ball, which is basically just a beach ball. And on each of the colors, you can ask a question. And so you can just write it out with a Sharpie if you want. And we did them like, what is the best part of your day? just kind of simple questions like that. In the classroom, we would do like, what did you have for breakfast this morning? And write that out and let them. So you can either do it a couple ways. You can have your child pick a color and you kind of turn to the color on your conversation ball and pick the color and ask them the question. You can also make it fun and make it like a catch game, and they catch it and they get to ask a question. I love the conversation ball and the would you rather questions, which I'll explain here in a minute, because not only do they get to answer a question, but you can really build upon that by asking them to ask the question back to you. So we're kind of focusing on answering the question and engaging and building upon a conversation by asking a question as well. So our would you rather questions, those were my favorite. We did them in the classroom. We used them as icebreakers. There's actually even a fun game that goes along with it too. You can really even do a simple Google search and ask would you rather questions for children. And there's a list of 100 questions, 50 questions, whatever they may be. So would you rather questions can be really simple. One of our favorite ones is like when you ask a child, would you rather fly or would you rather be invisible? And so again, kind of going back to those different tiers of conversational skills, you can first start with just answering the question. And then you can add a why. So if they say, I would rather be invisible, instead of just saying, okay, and making it a closed end conversation, you can ask a why question. So why would you rather be invisible instead of flying? And really get them to talk to you and tell you why. And then the next step with that would be having them ask you, okay, so I answered, I would rather be invisible, and here's why. Well, Mom, which one would you rather be? And then they can also focus on those listening skills, whole body listening, respecting other people's point of view, because maybe your choice might be something different than theirs. And that's really good for them to hear and understand that somebody else may have a different perspective and different point of view than they do. And that is okay. So those are just really good strategies to walk through that at home with your child. Jackbox games. I know many of us are still social distancing right now too during the pandemic. Jackbox games have been fantastic for playing games online and still being able to connect with others. I know a lot of us want to pull our children off of video games if they're doing online gaming. Jackbox games can be a more meaningful game. It's more age appropriate for more our middle school, high school kiddos, or with a younger child with parent supervision, maybe with another family member. So even in our home, we've done it with other family members, even that don't live in the same town or state as us. And it's been another way just to connect and socialize with other people. So that's just online. You can look it up. It's called Jackbox Games. You do have to buy it and download it, but then you can stream it and do it just like this via a Zoom with another family member or friend too. We talked about board games, my absolute favorite. Clever riddles and rhymes. And I'm going to kind of circle back to songs can be really helpful. And like I mentioned earlier, our music therapy team has some fantastic songs and YouTube videos that are out there on the internet, and we can show you where to find those that have some of those things that might help your child as well. Volunteer opportunities are fantastic, no matter how big or small they are. I know a lot, especially here in McKinney, Frisco, there's a lot of the books where you can go and check out a book for free on the corners. The little book box, I know everybody calls them something a little bit different. There's also things for canned goods where you can put in the little pantries. Even if that something is dropping that off, that can help. Or getting them involved in bigger projects like Meals on Wheels, some of those things that they can help you out with as well. And that kind of circles back to us being those models for our children, and they're watching us do it, and they're going to be more likely to participate if it's something that they see us doing and want to do it with us as parents. And their last one, what should you do if? So this is kind of just goes back to some of those social scripts and social stories, but like I'll go back to our playground example, that if you have a friend that doesn't want to play with you, or that wants to play something different than what you do, what should you do if? And kind of walking your child through those different scenarios and having them answer and problem solve some of those things with you. As much as you can do this proactively, the better. It's really hard, as we know, when our child may be in full meltdown mode, crying, to try to be walking through, well, what should you have done? And it's really hard for us as parents to not do that with our child um, in the moment. So as much as you can do it proactively, it's a lot easier once your child kind of calms down and recuperates to kind of circle back to like, hey, remember we talked about this might happen. So what should you do if, or what should you have done this? So it's a lot easier if they've already opened up that conversation with your children. Helpful tips, again, remember to make it fun. That's why we love games, we love books, we love movies. The conversation ball, as much fun as we can have with our social stories and social skills, the more willing our more likely our children will be accepting it. And then asking open-ended questions to encourage conversation. I know for a lot of children on the autism spectrum, even just getting that yes or no can be really, really hard. But as much as you can, ask open-ended conversations to encourage it. So an example of that would be when your child gets in the car, instead of asking, did you play with anybody today? That can be a yes, no. Instead of asking, did you play with anybody? You can ask, who did you play with and what did you play? And really get them talking about what they did. So it's not just these simple one word answers. Try to avoid yes or no questions as much as possible. And then a really important thing to remember is it's not, I know we hear a lot and it's kind of been engraved in our brains a lot that practice makes perfect, but it's all about practice makes permanence. And we want these things to be consistent habits with our children, not just a one and done, I can check it off my list, but something that we continue to practice and we continue to improve on, and we continue to generalize our skills as much as possible. It's always going to be a revolving door of those social skills that we're going to be working on and reassess, and that we continue to work on. So it's make sure we keep addressing that. And we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for our child to have permanence and have consistency with their social skills too. And so I am going to go over just a couple of those resources. So this can be shared with you guys. These are all links to click here. But here's the example of a simple deck of the would you rather questions, the cards that you can get for your kids. They have them online, but if your child likes something that's more tangible, the cards are really nice. You open up the deck, and on the card, there's actually 4 different types of questions. So they can do it based on, there's color, you can do it color coded however you want, or they can answer all 4 and make that kind of like a dinner time activity. You could set out a would you rather card on the dinner table and everybody go around answering it to try to keep that conversation going during that dinner time. Here's a link for conversation starters and fun questions for kids. Conversation starters for geared mainly for teens. Funny questions to ask, never have I ever questions for kids, and some clever riddles you'll be able to find on here. Here's a website that has the best board games for family, and a lot of times you can pick those based on their age. Like I said, my sneaky snack squirrel game is for ages 3 and up, but I enjoy playing it. And then we have things like Trouble, Sorry, Jenga that can be geared towards some of our older kids. There's a link for Amazon's best-selling family board games. Family Feud for kids can be really fun too. Here's a link for some volunteer opportunities that you can do with your child. And the AARP volunteer search as well. I'm going to click on this really quick and show you our in-home parent training website, because we do have a lot of resources on here that can be very valuable. So if we see, here are a lot of our social scripts that we already have made for you. So if there are some on here that already stick out to you, that this is something that you want to work on, we have everything from nose picking to asking somebody to play, to losing. We already have those. I'll click on, I can learn from losing, since we kind of discussed that one. Here's a little social script already made for you that has to do with playing games, losing, how we can learn from losing, how we can say good job or great game after we lose too, or after we win. Some of our children need a little help with being a little humble too when they win. So we do already have these ready and available for you on our in-home parent training website. And so I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly, and she's going to focus more on some ideas for summer. Summer, I think we have, is it 10 or 11 school days left? So summer's right around the corner. So we have some awesome ideas and strategies for you to help with some social skills with your children in the summer as well.
You go to the next slide. Oh, there we go. Hi, so obviously social skills are something that we're going to work on throughout the year, but a lot of times summer will bring extra time and opportunities that we can focus on these things at home and in the community. So we send out a s'more each month with resources in it. And one of the things that we'll send out in our summer theme s'more is this visual on the left that says a parent summer plan for 2021. So some of the things that we like to focus on in the summer are creating goals with your family. That's something that Megan mentioned many times, because oftentimes if we just say, oh, you know, we really want our child to have friends, we really want our child to be more comfortable around other people, but if we don't break that down and kind of set some achievable goals, then we don't make as much progress. So sitting down and creating goals with your family, not only related to social skills, but if there's anything that you wanted to learn this summer, setting goals and modeling for your children, making sure that you set some of those goals for yourself as well. And creating a summer fun board is something that my family really loves, and we're going to talk about that on the next slide. Having a daily schedule is something that I found to be super helpful with my kids. That kind of keeps us in a routine. We know, or at least as I'm planning that out with them, I know that I'm hitting the highlights. So that they do have opportunities for social skills. They do have opportunities to do chores, to kind of work on making sure that we're not regressing with their academics. And then as we talk about chores, one of the things that I like to do with my kiddos is to make sure that we're talking about those things together, instead of me just saying, okay, you get this and you get this and you get this. Talking with them about the things that they enjoy doing and the things that they would like to do. And as we talk about in our self-help chores and responsibilities training, the summertime is a great time to kind of break down some of those chores that your kiddos may not have all the skills to do just yet. But one of the goals for your summer can be to teach them like how to walk through cleaning the counters completely, or how to vacuum completely, or how to, in our house, scoop the litter completely. So whatever it is. Yes, we will send the presentation via email. So that you can click all of these links. Sitting in the dark. So the other thing that we do as a family is to plan our weekly menus, and social skills can come into that with the menu planning, because I know in my house, one of my lovely kiddos likes to and ooh and ugh, I don't want to eat that. And those are not really appropriate social skills. And when he was younger, he would say those things when other people had prepared the food. So one of the things that we did was to make sure that he was part of the menu planning, prepping, shopping. It was great for his skills, but also to work on the social skills piece. Because if he was invested in preparing that meal, planning that meal, and serving that meal, then he understood what it felt like if his sister, who I may have encouraged to do this, if his sister were to say, "Ugh, I don't really like this. This isn't good." It kind of gave him an opportunity to know what that feels like when you've kind of poured your heart and sweat into preparing a meal for your family and then not have that be appreciated. Another thing that's helpful is to plan themed days of the week. So, and it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It could just be whatever works for your family. So the examples here are like, maybe on Sundays, it's time to go get the groceries. On Mondays, we go to the library. On Tuesdays, we bake. On Wednesdays, we do art. On Thursdays, we go to the park. On Fridays, we have a staycation or movie day. And then Saturdays, maybe we do play dates or sleepovers. So it can be whatever works for your family, whatever things you enjoy doing, kind of mixing in the have tos with the want tos. But as you're planning all of these things, make sure that there is an element of social skills growth there. So like if you make your Wednesdays a game day, make sure that you plan on turn taking, winning, losing. I know my son is the one who struggles the most with this, but he is really good at winning games, and losing is one of the things he struggles with. And so there are many times that we will choose games or set things up to make sure that he has the opportunity to practice being a gracious loser and walking him through what that looks like. Another thing that we do in our house is to encourage the kids to do chore trades. So if, for instance, my daughter is exhausted by the dishes and doesn't want to do them anymore, then she may go to her brother and say, you know what, I would like to trade you this week. Can I do the vacuuming and you do the dishes? Or can you scoop the litter and I do another chore for you? And it's pretty fun to watch the social skills aspect of that as they're bargaining, and especially if one of my kiddos has an injury or doesn't feel good, watching the other one kind of pick up the slack for them. And I've even watched them say, oh, well, you know what, I'll just do both of them, which as a mom, that was complete music to my ears, that they are showing empathy and that they're being kind to their siblings. So with all of these things, there are ways that you can kind of weave social skills into all of the plans that you're making over the summer. And if you go to the next slide, we'll talk about that summer fun board. So this is, my kiddos are Bella and Brody, and this is an example of a board that we did many years ago when Bella was 8 and Brody was 3. And so you can kind of see here, I don't know if you can read those things, but many of them are just small everyday type things that they really, really love. Like we always make a trip, well, trips to see the Frisco snow cone lady. And so one of those boxes says, get a snow cone. There's one that says Brody play date with Parker. And then one of them is go to Mimi and Poppy's. Well, Mimi and Poppy are in Louisiana. So that was a really, really big box that we checked off, but not all of them are the big boxes. And a lot of them are social skills themed. And you notice there are some scribbles in some of those boxes because my son was 3 at the time and had very limited language. And so he would either go and get something to show me that that was something he wanted to do, or he would point to things in a book to show me that's something he wanted to do. And so we would give him a marker and let him draw in his squares to communicate that that was, what he wanted to do. And we knew that, when he scribbled in that box, that meant that he wanted to go to the library or that he wanted to go play in the hose outside or whatever it was. But it's really important to know that you can I would involve the kids in every single aspect of this, from choosing the board, going to the dollar store, or they're only $1 there. Actually, they're less than $1 there. Choosing the stickers, the markers, anything that you want, just to kind of get them invested in this, because we also throw in things that are goals. So if you notice, one of them says, give Birdie's Woobies to the babies. And that's my 8-year-old spelling there, BABBY', but it's absolutely perfect as it is. And so Brody still had his pacifiers that summer. And one of the goals that we had was for him to give the Woobies to the babies. And so that was my daughter's idea, that he could find a deserving baby and give them a bag of the Woobies. And so we collected all of the Woobies and put them in a Ziploc and ended up finding a baby in public. And I pulled the mom to the side and asked her if it was okay for my son to hand her the Woobies to give to her baby, because he wanted to pass them along to someone else who needed them. Another thing on there is to potty train Birdie. So that was the summer that we did the Fox Nazarene protocol with my son and taught him how to potty. So making sure that they're involved in every step of it, sneaking in some of those goals, because there was something that was just magical about checking off those things. And so my kids were super excited to meet those goals and check those things off because they were on the summer fun board. And making sure that you're choosing some things on here that go along with social opportunities. So in the summer, we can go to splash parks, and Hope Park is a great place. One of the things that's listed in our resources, there's a link about accessible playgrounds if that's something your family needs. So around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we have, I think we're up to almost a dozen accessible playgrounds. So the summer's a great time to kind of go around and see new spots that you can meet new friends, or even just to plan time to go with your loved ones and cousins and practice those skills with them. We can move on to the next one. So for some of the ideas that are specific to summer, we have a resource. Actually, can we do the s'more first? Switch those around. Let's see. So you should be receiving the s'more each month. If you're not getting an email that has a link with a s'more in it, let us know and we'll make sure that you get a copy of it. But one of the things that we put together for the summer, at the top, there's some information about safety. So as you're going out in the community and exploring, one of the things that's important to make sure you're considering is safety. So at the top there, there's a link to the Take Me Home program that Frisco Police Department and Plano Police Department have put together as a way to make sure that if your child gets away from you or elopes from your home, that there is a way to safely get them home. It's a very simple process. You just complete the form either online or the PDF version, and you share a digital photograph. So the things that they'll ask you on the form are some identifying information about how to reach you. They also want to know if your child has a disability, to kind of share some information about that, to know if your child is afraid of police officers, things that they love, ways to kind of coax them over to keep them safe until they can reach you. And so should your child elope, if you've completed this form, you can just call the police and say, my child eloped or got away from us in public, and they are part of the Take Me Home program. And so all of that information that you've already provided will go to the police officer that is nearest their last known location. And that kind of saves you time and effort and energy when you are scared or worried, and it makes sure that the police have everything that they need, including a photo of your child, so they can locate them quickly. So that's something that is important to consider. There's also some attachments at the bottom that we won't open, but know that they're there, and it's kind of a checklist of things that you can consider about your home and when you're out in public. And then going down, we have some resources of events and things that are happening. So super excited. We have the ACing Autism program is now going to be in McKinney. Before, this is their first year in McKinney. It's always been in Dallas or even further. And so this is a program that is designed for children with autism to do tennis. And they actually provide all of the equipment that you need. You just need to register and show up. And it's a really amazing experience. And they do focus on some of those social connections too. There is, Main Gate is a place where they do hippotherapy or horseback riding. And they have this really wonderful country fair that I know Megan takes her family to, where they have lots of games and activities, and that's coming up in June. Another one of the programs that we really love, there is an I Can Bike and I Can Swim program that is run mostly by volunteers, but they want to make sure that your kiddos can bike and swim. Swimming is another thing that's super important to focus on in the summer, especially if you have a child who's drawn to water. So the I Can Bike program, they make sure that your child can learn how to ride a bike. And I was just sharing with some of the girls that I have a student that I worked with when he was 8, and it took him until he was 20 to learn to ride a bike because no one was able to be successful with him in teaching him that. But the I Can Bike program got him riding at age 20, which was amazing. The other thing that's listed there is the Play Frisco. If you're new to Frisco, each summer the Frisco Parks and Rec will release what they call their summer fun guide. And that is where they list all of the classes and camps that they do over the summer. Some of those may be appropriate for your child. If you're looking through the guide and have some questions about some accommodations that may help your child to be successful, you can reach out to the 2 gentlemen there and kind of ask them some questions, share a little bit about your child and see if there's anything that they can do to accommodate a class for your child. The Frisco Public Library, if you have not been, is an amazing resource for our community, and we're actually getting a new one, and I cannot wait to see what that's going to look like in the next few years. But one of the things they do is the um, Summer Mayor's Reading Challenge. And so they just have you log online. So it's something you don't even have to go to the library for throughout the process, but you can log the hours, and it doesn't have to be that your child is reading the books. You can actually log the hours that you're reading to your child. And then at the end of that, they usually have some prizes that you can get as a reward for the hours of reading that you do with your child. They also have sensory backpacks that they've put together that you can check out. And the entire second floor of the library is dedicated to children. And so they encourage you, there's no longer that rule of shh, you have to be quiet in the library. They actually prefer that everyone is enjoying the space and having fun. So don't feel like if your child can't be quiet, that the library is not a welcome place for them, because it absolutely is. There's a couple other resources that you can go through down there. Kidzania is a great place to practice social skills. There's lots of opportunities to practice different jobs and activities. And so there's lots of pretend play that happens at Kidzania. So that's another great resource. And then if you want to go to the summer guide, we can walk through a little bit of that. So this is kind of separated by categories. So we have activities, camps, classes, and resources and therapies. So if you go to the activities tab, we'll just give them a little bit of an idea. There's just some listings here. We've already talked about Parks and Rec in the library. So iFly actually does flight nights for kids with disabilities, but it's also a pretty accessible activity, and they're really great about working with kids of all ages and abilities. The Dallas Children's Theater has sensory-friendly performances that are on pause for now, but they do have some online activities. Miracle League is a wonderful way if your child needs adapted sports. Miracle League is finally coming back online with some in-person activities. And then Studio Movie Grill is something that I recommend. Either Studio Movie Grill or AMC does sensory-friendly screenings. So if the movies is something that your child hasn't been able to experience yet, this is a great way to practice those skills, because they host sensory-friendly screenings every month on Saturdays at 11. And the lovely thing is that the sound is down, the lights are up, they encourage you to move around if that's needed. And then children with special needs and their siblings will enter free, and then their parents enter at like their least expensive matinee rate. And so I know for a lot of families, they've shared with me that they don't want to take their families to the movie because of how expensive it is, and they don't want to disrupt another family's experience. But this is actually a great way to kind of dip your foot into that and teach them movie behaviors and get them used to being in that space and seeing it on such a big screen. And then going down just a little bit more, there's the AMC information. SciTech is another great place to explore. That's right here in Frisco. Some of the things that you can do without any social interaction, geocaching is really, really fun. And there's lots of different ways that you can do that. And then Crayola Experience also offers a sensory-friendly Sunday. They're bringing that program back over the summer. The Dallas Museum of Art has the sensory days. Yeah, lots of great details there. And then if you want to go to the resources, Megan, if you look at those, there are lots of different things that you can see there. Community Connections Texas is a local nonprofit. And they recognize that a lot of times children with disabilities do not have opportunities for extracurricular activities and social activities as much as their non-disabled peers. And so they created this nonprofit organization to kind of fill that need. So they have volunteers who specialize in different activities. So it could be yoga, dance, disc golf. I've seen cheer, lots of different, so it just depends on who they have at the moment, who volunteers their time and has a love for one of those activities. And then they get donated spaces. And so if you go to their website, you'll see what they're currently doing. I know recently they had a yoga program and disc golf at McCord Park in Little Elm. So they're starting to bring back some great activities there. There's more information about Take Me Home. The Big Red Safety Box is another thing that can give you some information about safety. Our Frisco Parks and Trails, we have a lot of parks and trails in Frisco. And so that link will take you to every neighborhood park trail around the area and give you, we always go around to different ones throughout the summer. So it's a great time to figure out, especially where the splash parks are, because those come in handy in the summer. And then there's that list of inclusive parks. So if you want to try some other fun parks that are similar to Hope Park, we're very lucky that's close to us. And then if you wanted to explore beyond Frisco, the state parks actually has a list of accessibility pieces at each of the Texas state parks to see if that may be something that's a good fit for your family. If you're willing to travel, Morgan's Wonderland is an amazing theme park that was built with those with disabilities in mind. Absolutely every activity is accessible to every person. And so they have rides, they opened a water park, and they even do fishing. So that is in San Antonio, and it is an amazing, amazing experience if you guys want to travel for some fun. And then there's lots of other resources there for you to walk through. And then we'll let you explore on your own. You'll have copies of this and you should be getting the summer s'more as well, but there are other things there for camps and classes. So that is all that we have for you today, but we do want to open it to questions. If you need inspiration for what to do this summer or how to teach those social skills, you're welcome to, Megan, if you want to